So this week's lecture is something that is very real to me. I work with the aged population. I work in home health care and hospice as a community coordinator. I also work at a independent and assisted living facility. So I this is very near and dear and close to my heart. Um, Aging is constant in our developing, but we don't always understand or accept it. There are events such as 60th birthday, retirement, or 50th anniversary. You're happy, but have a twinge of sadness and acceptance because, they say that when you're going over the hill at 50, that have lived halfway to what they consider a full life. Gerontology is a study of aging. They investigate age, aging, and the aged. Social gerontology refers to a specialized field. Social workers often specialize across the board, and social workers will work in a demographic all the way from childbirth to death. So the field of social work is very important, and the people grow older. They define old age in terms of greater years than the current age. And so when you look at these people, you can't necessarily tell by looking at someone what their age group is. Styles sometimes can cause someone who's older to look younger and vice versa. So the youngest, the population has grown. As population has grown, those that are 65 and older are a bigger demographic now than they used to be. And those that are 85 and older are also a bigger demographic. People are living longer lives, and when they're living these longer lives, they're also seemingly more active in most cases. Um, and so there's different responses as to when age, when does youth end, what is the prime of life, and what age is someone old. And so I'm very happy that I haven't met any of those criteria for being old as of yet. So the book asks you some questions for personal review, however you want to answer it. You can look at the scoring in line with other populations. And then the number of males is generally lower per 100 over the past 2 decades. They've narrowed the percentage, but historically, women have outlived men. And there's a lot of factors to that having to do with, hormones and lifestyle. Baby boomers are the people who were born between 46 and 64. And I have a mother who is a boomer, and barely, but is definitely a boomer. And the healthcare spending is projected to grow in the United States by 5.5% each year from now until 2027. The thing is that the cost of living and the cost of things definitely grows more than the actual cost of living increases that are given to those on Social Security. And then here's some more population by age and sex from 2000 and then 2010 in the millions. Aging around the world, in 2019, the world had 703 million people age 65 and older. By 2050, that number is projected to double to 1.5 billion. I will say this, that when I'm working with people out in the community, the thing that I've noticed, the biggest gap in services have to do with memory care and people who are in their homes that don't have anyone going to check on them, that they may have a cognitive decline in between their 6 month period seeing their primary care physician, or they may go for over a longer time period without going to the doctor for whatever reasons. And then when they do go to the doctor, their decline is so serious that they seek out services like the company I work for. But there's primary aging and secondary aging. Exercise and diet is something that you can do to help extend your life cycle. There's something that is known as the sandwich generation, and that is the children that are taking care of their parents and also taking care of their children. That we see more and more of this in today's society, where a household has three generations. And as you get older, people will eventually retire because they're physically unable to work. And many gay and lesbian couples are finally able to tie the knot, sometimes as seniors after decades of waiting. So today, actually, I found out that a patient that we were attempting to contact to provide home health services had been in and out of the hospital. I had went out and visited the family a few weeks ago. I got word today that the patient had passed last week. That's something that I am going to have to get adjusted to. Grief is something that it is and with my background in mental health, there is stages in grief. And so if you have a chance, please go ahead and go look at the 7 stages of grief on a separate project. That is something to know about. Phenomenology is systematic study of death and dying. Physician assisted suicide, also known as euthanasia. Dr. Philip Kevorkian was very famous for fighting for the right as a doctor to end those patients' lives who were dealing with some kind of chronic medical condition. He fought for the right. He said it was more humane to pit them to death because of their choice, because they wanted to, than for them to have to live with a chronic condition that oftentimes is has severe pain that's not manageable. And then the other side to what I do for a living now is hospice. It's a type of healthcare that treats, and I guess that's a typo there in the uh, slide. It treats, not threats. It treats terminally ill people when cure-oriented treatments are gone, no longer an option. Hospice is a loaded. It's a very misunderstood type of um, service, a type of clinic. You know, the thing is that when a person is going in and out of the hospital, in and out of the hospital, what hospice does is it brings the hospital to the home. Oftentimes, it starts by when your loved one has been in and out of the hospital, they will deliver medical equipment, including a bed, oxygen machine, bedside table. They will set up in the home if there's room for it. They will set up a hospital bed in the room or a hospital bed in the living room, and that way nurses come. All of the palliative care is then taken care of in the home by hospice workers. Nurses and doctors give the orders, and then home health care workers also assist. Um, and so, looking here, ageism and abuse. Ageism is a discrimination based on age, and then gerontocracy Gerontocracy is a type of social structure wherein power is held by society's oldest members. And many Asian cultures that is found in elder abuse is the act of a caretaker intentionally depriving an older person of care or harming the person in their charge. We have the aging and disability, um, a organization that will follow up if someone makes a claim of elder abuse. There is a organization that will follow up, and very much like CPS, it's APS, Adult Protective Services. They will go in and check. Signs of abuse are listed here. These are important to know for your exam. And then there are senior citizen centers that I go, and I actually go and call bingo and do a lot of activities and help with the senior citizen centers in my area. It's important to know that functionalism looks at growing old or the elderly in a way of as only functionalism would, that there's a disengagement theory, which is similar to what I was just speaking about, those who may not go to the doctor and who may digress into a worse chronic medical condition. Active theory, this shows that activity levels and social involvement are key to process and key to happiness. According to this theory, the more active and involved an elderly person is, the happier he or she will be. And then continuity theory, they make specific choices to maintain consistency and internal personal structure beliefs. In other words, keeping things the same, more of the same, may not necessarily be healthy, but just like with other human behaviors, change is something that we oftentimes avoid. Elderly people in the carceral system, and this is people who are older who are in prison, and there's some statistics there that are important to know. And then conflict theory, modernization theory says that primary cause of elderly losing power and influence in society are parallel forces of industrialization and modernization. Think about it. There are people who are alive now that technology, you know, they grew up with barely coming into electricity and running water installed, and so society is changing rapidly for those who grew up or were born with no technology. I'm kind of in the middle. We had computers in high school; they were installed by senior year, Apple IIs. So, for those who had no younger or youthful connection or experience with computers, it can be quite challenging. There's age stratification theory where they maybe, might be stratified by age, just such as a race, class, and gender. And then exchange theory by Dowd in 1975, an increased dependence as we age, because we must submit to the will of others because we have fewer ways of compelling others to submit to us. And here we go with the public protest for wanting to save Medicare. Still a hot topic today, probably will be the rest of my life. So I definitely think that, and we'll end this lecture here at this slide, aging theory, symbolic interactionism. There's a subculture of aging theory which focuses on shared community created by elderly when they are excluded. So you have a whole demographic that is based on age and aging. And from what I've seen in my interaction, there are civil services, there are those organizations that are out there specifically to help senior citizens, Senior Citizen Center. They have lunches, they have bingo. Um, and uh, and oftentimes in the assisted living that I work at, the family members come out for holidays, tea parties, Easter, to spend as much time with their loved ones as they can to see that they're comfortable in their end of life. I hope that you have enjoyed this talk, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.